So because we still have quite a lot of presentation to come, and we finished the scientific part, which I would say is the most difficult sometimes, the most arid. And as GK said, we should, in the next time, agree on some definition of something that we do not have all to repeat one after the other, but it's difficult. Anyway, thank you to be back to the second part of this morning. We will concentrate on civil society and the business sector as agent of change for the soil health. We will also work in 3 sub-time. So the first time will be for mobilizing citizen, community, and local government. So if the Dr. Ravina Sridhar is in the room, yes. Of course, Pravina, why I was looking for you? I knew you. She is team member of the Safe Soil Movement, Conscious Planet, Isha Foundation in India. And she will talk about soil health in Asia and the Pacific, journey of 25 years of revitalization of soil.
Hello, everyone. I don't want to be standing behind the bunch of flowers because you cannot see me then. So it's not so much a technical presentation, you just need to see the deck. So how's everyone after the coffee? I hope little awake and alert. Yeah? Cannot hear anybody say anything. Yes. Okay. So I'm Pravina. I am part of the Safe Soil Movement. I'm a volunteer with Safe Soil Movement, and I take care of coordination of overall technical and scientific and policy issues with the movement. Thanks. So I'm not going to be talking a lot about soil organic carbon, regenerative agriculture. All of us here in many ways have seen what are the state, how far we have come. And in many ways, for the overall decade of me being an observer in agriculture sector, I would say that things are moving in the right direction, but we may want more pace to it, more acceleration to what's happening. So how do we engage communities and overall people when it comes to matters like this? The idea is, when we say communities, all of us who work in development sector understand the farmer, the villages with whom we act as communities, whereas the community is the entire world when it comes to soil, because everybody who eats food depends on soil, isn't it, some way or the other? So how do we involve the entire community, that is the world? And honestly, if anything has changed in the world since the time we have seen we organize ourselves as countries and civilizations, it's been because of people's movements. And some of the people's movements which have left an indelible mark on us as a world is the apartheid movement, the voting rights for women, voting rights for colored, and for that matter, girls' education, which still is a movement which needs a lot more push. Yeah. And many movements around inequality, like the Black Lives Matter or the Occupy Wall Street or Me Too, right? These movements in many ways have been able to drive policy changes to ensure that whatever injustice is happening is not happening. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the next slide is about environmental movements. There have been various environmental movements. The previous one. Yeah. There have been various environmental movements across the world. In many ways, when we got on to the Industrial Revolution period, none of us really thought what will be the bearing on the environment that actually on which we are building our, tertiary sector and secondary sector. But thanks to these environmental movements, we now have something called as a Air Pollution Act, some form or the other in every part of the world, Water Pollution Act or Clean Water Act or all of those things. And it's thanks to people like Wangari Maathai, and for that matter, the women of the Himalayas of Uttarakhand who went and hugged the trees in Chipko in India, and few other movements like that. The last one you see is the Rally for Rivers, which has been a movement which I have been part of also. So here I'm going to be speaking about the movement that I'm part of and how it has in many ways been able to change policies slower than the pace at which we would want policies to change. So at the Safe Soil movement, its genesis happened quite early on. Some of you may be aware of the movement. It was launched in last year of March with Sadhguru, the founder of the movement, riding across 30,000 kilometers across 27 countries. But the genesis of the movement is way earlier. From 1998, we have been working with farmers, the communities in which our organization is based in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. And we have been working towards building sustainable economics for the livelihood of the farmers, drought proofing, flood proofing through regenerative agriculture practices trainings, and bringing in very intense manner integration of trees into any farming that they do. Yeah, so we have been awarded with the Guinness Award for planting the largest number of trees in a day way earlier in early 2000s. We have been given India's highest environment award, Indira Gandhi Puraskar, and we have been given quite a number of awards worldwide, recognitions worldwide also. And now we stand in front of you as representatives of the Safe Soil movement. Next slide, please. So what does a movement entail? Like all of us sitting here, many of you must have invested decades of your life understanding how to make things sustainable, how to make things work. How will it happen? It will only happen when you have people's participation. And how do you encourage people's participation? It cannot be only technical people or policy people. There has to be various pressures and pulls for the government to actually act on things which look sensible. Because the governments and politicians don't work on what is logically sensible, but what are the pressure points that they will want to relieve. So you build pressure points, and you can do it in a very gentle and a very inclusive manner as well. And the movements that we do are in many ways inclusive, saying that all of us eat food, let's care for soil, let's have policies which ensure that our future generations have food to come, future generations are climate resilient, right? And this movement has been able to build a group of millions of volunteers, and some of them going on solo cycle rides, some of them coming together in the parks, building awareness on the importance of soil. And we also we also collaborate technically with organizations like 4P. So this is a global movement, and I just spoke about it. And along with this, we also build, next slide, please. We also collaborate and bring influencers who kind of have the mental space of people from across the world, across a spectrum of, influence. It could be business, it could be spiritual leaders, it could be actors, it could be singers, it could be environmentalists like Jane Goodall and others. Thank you. Next one, please. And what could we do in the 1.5 years or more than 1.5 years of our existences? We have been able to reach over 4 billion people. And we have been able to get around 3 million children to write letters to the leaders saying that this all seem to be maintained sustainably. And and we are present in 60 countries. 60 countries have had street arts, media articles, stories, live events, walkathon, so on and so forth. Next slide, please. So what does this mean? Is that like you're trying to keep the memory of the people, on a subject that should be mattering to them, that's soil. You keep the momentum, keep the conversation, keep the narrative on, so that at some point when there is an election manifesto, that should reflect this. At some point when policies are made, people who are putting environmental policies together should remember that soil matters and there needs to be concrete policies need to be done for soil. And since then, along with these people's movement, we also collaborate with various nations, and we bring in a group of technical people who can advise the governments on policy matters. And we stand on the shoulders of giants like 4P1000 when we do that. And overall, and we are also right now in the process of building on-ground illustrations of what we mean by sustainable soil management across various geographies as well. So that's it. So thanks a lot for giving this opportunity for us to present here.
Thank you very much, Pravina, for this. And we appreciate what was done by Sadhguru also to bring all the movement about soil and soil health. This is important to have more and more leaders, whatever they are, aware of this subject and bringing all the people being aware also of this subject. So we have a video from André Le. He's International Director of Regeneration International. He was previously the president of IFOAM, International Organization about Organic Agriculture. So we give the floor to André.
Hello, I'm Professor Dr. Andre Loy, the International Director of Regeneration International. And I have the pleasure today to speak to you from my regenerative organic tropical fruit farm in the far north of Queensland in Australia. Regeneration International, we are the organisation that started the international regenerative agricultural movement. Most people have probably never heard of regenerative agriculture before we formed in 2015. And we've had a major role in educating the world and explaining the multifunctional benefits of regenerative agriculture. As well as that, we have been building partnerships with like-minded organisations. And currently we have over 500 partners in over 70 countries on every continent. Our latest project is to scale up regenerative agriculture by paying farmers for the ecosystem services of regenerative agriculture, and particularly the ecosystem functions of increasing soil organic matter. This includes the drawdown benefits of drawing down carbon dioxide, the main greenhouse gas, into the soil to mitigate climate change. There are other major benefits of increasing soil organic matter, such as increasing the ability to capture water, which is really important now that rainfall has become a lot more erratic and tends, when it comes, to be a lot stronger. The ability to capture as much of it as possible and store it for the dry times is critical for agriculture. And we now have very good data showing how systems that do this have on average around 30% higher increases in yield. There's also the ability of increasing soil fertility. The more we increase soil organic matter, the more we build up the natural soil fertility. The importance of soil organic matter for building a really good soil structure that resists erosion, but it's also open. So it's aerated, it's easy for roots to travel through. And then the importance of soil organic matter in relation to the soil microbiome, all the fungi and beneficial bacteria and other microorganisms and their ecosystem functions. This, we believe, by paying farmers to do this, we can scale up. The number of farmers will now start improving their soil organic matter to help climate change, but also deliver wider environmental benefits and more resilience in farming. And I want to say I wish you a very successful conference. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you to Andre for this message. I would like to call now Mr. Muralidhar, Director Sustainable Agriculture Program of World Wildlife Fund, WWF, India, who make a presentation on boosting supply chain sustainability through investment in soil. So, Mr. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul, and good morning to all. We basically, WWF, I just wanted to introduce who we are before I get into the presentation. Most of you might not be knowing, who we are. So WWF is an international organization. We are headquartered at Switzerland. We work almost 100 countries across the 5 continents. We have been working and with the aim to, conserve and preserve the nature in all the countries where we have a presence. We are mostly, the emphasis has been, working, saving animals, but also we are now, getting into the food system, because you might have heard, the agriculture is the bigger driver of the biodiversity loss from the world. So this is the reason, that we have been working in agriculture space for almost 3 decades globally. And around 15 years ago, we started intervention in India. India is being an important country from the agriculture point of view. And this was the reason we started our work in India on agriculture. So what we do in agriculture, we work mostly with the private companies, and I will get to know. And before I get into the details, what we do, can I have a next slide, please? So we can see, some of the data which says, the agriculture is quite important for the economy, and it contributes around 4.3% to the global GDP. And when we see, how much, this contribution to the service and the goods sector, it comes quite, the big 27.59% agriculture contributes to the goods, the goods which, the moves around the world. Agriculture is one of the, the contributor to that. And also, in terms of the services, 64.43%. That's, the contribution of agriculture globally. And most of the, this goods and the, the services which, that travels across the world, most of is being done by the businesses. So businesses are critical, and they are a backbone of the agriculture system because they are heavily relying on the supplies which comes from the agriculture system. Now we have seen over the years, the shift from the north to south block. The most of the south blocks are becoming a critical block in terms of to keep up the agriculture system or agriculture supplies up. For the economies that are either directly dependent on GDP or have sectors that have heavily on it, global south is essential. So global south is becoming a very essential to keep up, the global economy, and agriculture is one of the major contributor. Can I have a next slide, please? The other side of the spectrum, which we see, from the global point of view, this slide talks about the global picture. We have only 10.7% arable land available. So this is a global. We can't go beyond that. We can't extend, our land from 10.1% to even 10.72%. So what we have only 10.7% arable land globally available, which would, provide the services and the goods to the economy, which I just spoken. Another thing is, this is the current, the average productivity from the land which we are getting, though it looks very big, the 6 tons per hectare. But, when it comes into the, the country like India, it goes down. It is around 3.5 and 3.2 tons per hectare. So there is a very little scope to work on that. And the other thing, one of the things which we have seen over the years, and the lowering down of the productivity, the land degradation is one of the costs which is pulling down the productivity. And we may not be having a luxury in going forward to have a 6.5 tons per hectare if we, continue what we have been doing in agriculture system. And previous, the speakers, they already spoken about, what kind of challenges which we are having with agriculture. And hopefully, if we don't correct at this point of time, then, our productivity will go down, and the impact of that would be humongous on the, the businesses who are dependent on that. So some of the countries, can you stay back on the slide? Some of the countries, they are critical from the global supply chain point of view, and 10 countries globally, their productivity is higher. So this is the data which we have taken it up from various, and India and Bangladesh from the southern part is popping up like, it has a highest productivity. Go back to the next slide, please. So we started, the one initiative with 2 Swedish companies, and I don't want to take a name because we didn't get approval from them to share the name. And the idea is to, go back and work on the land management side because it is critical. And those Swedish companies, one is heavily in apparel business, and the another one is in the furnishing business. So they are heavily dependent on the raw material which comes from the land, and there is a concern, the way the land productivity is getting down, and and they see, that there is a lot of risk comes from if we don't manage the way the lands are being managed, then their supply chain will going to be suffered. With that aim, we started a program, and I don't want to get into the details because Paul is already, the knocking my head. So in that, the program, whatever the previous speaker have spoken, we have taken it up, all the initiatives like name it, the agroforestry and many other initiatives in order to rehabilitate the land management so that, that particular land provide a sufficient supplies for the, for the supply chain. And the whole objective is to make, the supply chains more sustainable, not from only the environment point of view, but from the supply point of view, so that we can keep it up our economy. At this point of time, we are just working with 2 companies, and we are trying to, create a good case studies out of that program which we have been running, and hopefully that, the whole study will going to motivate other companies to step up and work at the down of the supply chain, particularly from the land point of view. So I'm just concluding my remarks over here. And again, we are grateful to, the 4 per 1,000 for inviting us to speak and share a very little example in a 5 minute. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Seems to be that I am a teacher in the room, just giving the signal to the people to stop. Sorry for that. I don't like to do that, Believe me, if I could not do that, I would not. Okay, so the next speaker is online. Is from China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. This is Professor Jian Xixing. I hope that you can hear me, Professor. He is professor of the Institute of Soil and Water Conservation, Northwest Agriculture and Forestry, and Chinese Academy of Science. Research field, carbon cycle and climate change. So, Professor, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to represent the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, CBCGDF, at this conference today. I would like to share with you some of the recent efforts and activities that CBCGDF has undertaken in relation to the 4 per 1,000 plan. At first, we have developed a biochemical hydrolysis biotechnology to efficiently break down agriculture and forestry waste resources, such as crop straw and livestock manure. The process involves the rapid breakdown of biomass, separating waste into water-soluble small molecules and solid materials, such as cellulose. This technology enables us to produce a range of environmentally sustainable products, including mulch film, seed blankets, and water-soluble fertilizer. We have currently built a production facility in Wanyi District, Tongchuan City, Shanxi Province, with an annual capacity of over 100,000 tons. We have also developed mobile production facilities to meet the requirements of different production scales. To guide the field experiments and assess the impact of our products on crop yield, gram quality, soil carbon sequestration, and greenhouse gas emission, we have developed the CBCGDF standard and the Agricultural Land Carbon Sequestration Assessment Operation Manual. Under the guidance of the standard and the manual, we have conducted field experiments in Tongchuan, Shanxi Province, and Danjiangkou, Hubei Province. We applied a water-soluble fertilizer and monitored its impact on soil organic matter, crop yield, and quality. A randomized complete block design was involved, with 4 blocks and 7 treatments, including no fertilizer, traditional chemical fertilizer, and various levels of water-soluble fertilizer application. And data from the first year of the trial showed a significant increase in soil organic matter content with the application of a water-soluble fertilizer, achieving a 3% increase of the no fertilizer treatment and about 1% increase over traditional chemical fertilizer. This is in line with the 4 per 1,000 target. In addition, our data showed a significant improvement in the trace elements such as copper, zinc, iron, and calcium in the grain of the implication of a water-soluble fertilizer. And third, we have also conducted production application demonstrations and provided technical services in various regions of China, including Hubei, Jiangxi, Inner Mongolia, Heilongjiang, and Xinjiang provinces. We are working together to establish basis for the production of straw-based products and plans for soil improvement on more than 100,000 hectares. In summary, over the past decades, our foundation has been dedicated to the development of a biomass, biochemical hydrolysis biotechnology, and the promotion of environmental sustainable products. We have conducted a series of field trials, product demonstrations, and technical services for carbon sequestration. That's all. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Professor, for these words from China. And I'm glad that you could join us remotely, even though you will not be able to be in China. I just noticed that China organizes during the same date of this conference, a conference on soil health also. So, well, it was by, I would say, not really a chance, but it means one thing is that the subject is very important. And that's the only thing I want to keep in my mind. Thank you very much again. So the last speaker, thank you. For the last part, this first part of the second part of the morning, this is Mr. Krishna Tiwari, Tribhuvan University of Institute of Forestry of Nepal. So you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Good morning, till we have the afternoon. Yeah, I have a very short presentation about the small research in the farm level research regarding the big perspective. So I talk more on the how these land use, these even farming system. We talk about the last 2-3 days about the in the mountain, in the small terrain also. The farmers are now starting these traditional maize millet system to the vegetable farming with use the fertilizers, so that how within the 3-4 years also there is a decreasing trend of the organic matters. So then I have to talk about this, and I'll not okay, next please slide. So I'll not talk about the countries and other things. My previous colleagues, Nepali guys. Next please slide. Yeah. So I'll not talk anymore because we are the things is our current baseline data shows that we have the low amount of organic matters, organic carbons, because of our mountain is the marginality, fragility, steep mountain. So not much accumulation of organic carbons due to the erosions, landslide also the occurs. And also, but although they have the indigenous practices about the soil conservation, fertility management, and indigenous practice. Okay, next please slide. So basically, farmers use the both amount of the nutrient, like the chemical fertilizer, as well as the compost and dry matters in the either in the main crops, maize millet in the rain-fed farming. When farmers now, those who are some farmers, they start the vegetable farming also. They use also increase the trend of the chemical fertilizer nowadays. And then there are some minor crops like the millet, bajra, they also, that they very nominal use the chemical fertilizer. Mostly they depend on the these organic matters. Next, please. One saw this comparative analysis with these 4-5 years studies, but there is the decrease of when talk about the maize millet system with the traditional practice. But when they start to the same area with the vegetable farming, there is the decrease the organic carbons, even total nitrogen is the one from 1.6 to 1.4 within 4-5 years. So this is the trend with the nutrient decreasing in those who are the intensive farming. So next, please. So it give the this is the when we analyze the soil quality, and that's when the intensive with the chemical fighters, the quality has decreasing compared to the traditional practice. They are still the maintain maize millet system, they still maintain the these soil quality index. But when talk about the vegetable farming with the chemical fertilizer, there is the decreasing the soil qualities. Next. But the one things that we found when I calculate this soil quality index with the different parameter, physical, chemical properties with using the principal component analysis, organic matter is the one of the key indicators to analyze the soil quality, because we all talk about it, so that even the farmers, they don't have the other analyzing the soil properties. If they know the organic matter content, their particular soil in the small farmers, then by knowing the organic matter content, then we know the quality of the soil in the small farmers also. So next. So these are the key findings. So my quick comments in the national perspective, we talk about the soil arid carbon in the forest and croplands should be increased 1% per year, but there are some data. But we have the positive things is that we have the very much community forestry and bioconservation in the forest area, rangeland, even the margin swamp. In a wetland conservation, there should be stored the some amount of the stock beside the organic farmlands. That's all my slides. Very short. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to be so brief, because even my clock was still running. Thank you very much. So this is the last presentation of this first part. Now the second part, we come on the carbon farming as a business model. So what can we do concretely? There were so many questions about, well, we are talking about science and everything, gaps and research project and so on. What can we do really? And well, we already start having a part of the answer with the NGO and the people acting of the civil society and the business. So now let's come back also as the carbon farming as a business model. So we're supposed to be online with somebody in France, but apparently it's not yet available. So we will move to the first presentation, which is Mr. Suman Sarawi Kibatla. I'm okay. Associate Director of Operation, Dr. Reddy's Foundation, India. And he will talk to us about experiences on implementation of regenerative agriculture in multiple states across India to improve soil health and connecting to carbon credits. So, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I think the presentation will be focusing more about bringing the insights from working on climate smart agriculture, our carbon farming linked initiative from the farmer's side. That's our whole focus of this presentation. Next slide. So brief, we are a 26 years old organization based out of Hyderabad. We are working on multiple themes: education, livelihoods, health, and climate action. As part of our climate action initiative, regenerative agriculture, we have started doing it from 2020. And this is our current presence. We are about in 5 states with regard to regenerative agriculture, working in around 3,600 plus villages. And I just took two of these locations for a kind of a representation purpose. So this is a kind of a system we work. And as part of regenerative agriculture, we again focus on cereal crops, because in the Indian context, at any point of time, 60% of the cropland is under cereals. So if we have to bring anything in terms of a change at scale in terms of RA, so we have to solve a problem of cereal crops. So that's the reason we have focused on paddy, maize, and wheat as primary crops, where we can introduce and promote regenerative agriculture at scale. Next slide, please. So largely, if we talk about it, these are the four broad initiatives or the interventions which we are focusing on it. However, there are multiple other interventions, but direct seeded rice in paddy, and zero tillage in maize and wheat, and cover crop being introduced as a third crop wherever it is possible. And all of these interventions which I have shared here is actually adopted at scale by farmers by providing right support mechanism, be it advisory service, be it farm mechanization service, be it providing the hand-holding support during the critical phases like weed management and disease and pest management, and of course, water management. Okay, so probably like again, so when we have to do something at scale, then we have to have our processes and the foundational block in place. So we focus on doing same things again and again well. And for that, we needed these four critical foundational blocks in place. That entire streamlined processes and performance metrics well defined, and then stakeholder engagement. The most important aspect is about risk management, because we have a lot of external risks. We have a lot of behavioral changes which we have to bring in among the farmers. So there are a lot of risks which we have. And we have to have a very strong risk management mechanism in place to deal with this kind of thing and achieve certain kind of a scale. Next, please. So, okay, now coming to streamlined process, this entire the extension mechanism, which we believe is on a farmer-to-farmer extension model, we believe, and this is completely on a bottom-up approach. So it's not like we identify some of them and then farmer leader and then ask them or invest on them, but it is largely community-oriented, and community selects these farmers, and we select them based on the activity-based approach. So that means there is some specific action they have to demonstrate in the village among the farmers, so that we can start working with them. And the last one is about, again, until unless they demonstrate certain kind of set of activities as well as certain set of behaviors, we don't really onboard them as part of the entire farmer to farmer extension model. And we then, once they are onboarded, after selection of the criteria and everything, we go with investing in terms of training and hand holding support. Next. So as part of our extension, we strongly focus on capsule-based learning. So, and this has to be very tailor-made, localized, and local terminology-based. It can't be used by a scientific terms. And whatever they are going to adopt in next 15-20 days, that's the only critical message we give it to them, so that they just implement it there. And we use a lot of nudge posters, and we use a lot of IPC-based tools to ensure that the critical messages go to them and they adopt, they go and they just implement it, because it's all about that action. Next. So these are the typical examples of some of the nudge posters which are there in Telugu as well as Hindi. It is talking about, if you want to go with a direct seeded rice, you will be able to save in terms of labor cost. Are you willing to consider? Please call us up. That's a kind of a message. Next slide. So these are all this material which has been developed are developed by a professional communication agency, so that we bring that entire art into science, so that the key messages are delivered to the farmers and they take them back and then implement it. Next. Next slide, please. So with regard to this entire key messages dissemination among the farmers, the farmer to farmer extension model has to be working out. We also leverage a lot of technology tools like bulk SMS, video messages, video bytes, press media, all that we do apart from the physical one-to-one trainings and group field visits, field exposure. We use it. So we typically use all possible touch points for a farmer so that they take back the key messages and they go and they adopt it. And if there are any challenges, they'll come back. Next slide. Next slide. So these are all the typical, again, when it comes to carbon farming, data becomes very crucial. And these are all the very scientific data, the entire life cycle analysis data, we have to capture it, both baseline as well as the dynamic data, which we focus on as part of the MRV system. It's laborious, and currently the digital MRV systems are not really at scale available and not so authentic. So we have to rely on it at this point of time on ground truthing. So we are heavy lifting that part of it. Yes. Next slide. So that previous slide was talking about some of our experiences in terms of when we are going and collecting the data from the farmers, what kind of challenges we have had. So the slides are going to be shared with you. If anybody is interested, you can go back and you can reach out to me. I would love to clarify and help you more with that information. So if you talk about the entire challenges with regard to performance metrics or a data collection, these are the 4 broad challenges which we have experienced as part of doing this adoption of regenerative agriculture at scale related to carbon farming. One is that network and we don't have much of the Android application being used by the farmers in the villages. They still use that QWERTY keypad thing, which is not really suitable for us to have certain kind of a geotagging or fence being mapped properly. All that is there. And of course, since they are of less capacity, the network itself is not going to be so strong for them, and then that will have its own challenges. Now, the human issues, of course, behavioral changes at a rural or even our own field officer don't understand the need of that kind of a data which is to be captured, and how and why it should be a quality data, all those human challenges which we have to deal with it. Then there are technical app issues, crashes, any changes of versions, it get crashed, all that are there. So, but overall, all of them are going to go back and say that we have to have engagement with multiple stakeholders, and capacity building becomes very crucial, and it should be a very action-oriented feedback. That's what we understood, and that's how we have been invested on it, and it's not going to be smooth. We have to really, really invest first 2-3 years. Heavy lifting has to happen. Then only these systems can be in place. Next, please. So to the interest of the group, so this is last. So with regard to the direct seeded rice, this is one example which I wanted to share it with you, that many people are having a doubt whether DSR is really possible, scalable, and it's only one time people would be doing it. This is our direct experience right now, considering 2 seasons. 30% of the farmers have retained in direct seeded rice, and all those people, whoever has retained, they have increased their crop area. So any technology, if you talk about it, 25 to 30% is the retention. Later on, people go back, because any new technology is a baby. You have to protect it. Not all people are ready to, or not all farmers would be willing to do that. So 30-40%, those people would be adopting it. Interestingly, whether they are increasing the crop area is what decides the technology adoption. So we have from 1.1 acre to 2.82 acre, this entire adoption has been taken care. Right? I'll stop it here. And any questions or anything in terms of the program related experience, I would love to answer you during the break time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much anyway. And of course, you can continue the discussion if you are interested by the subject and discuss with all the speakers. So we will have Mr. Arindam Datta, Senior Fellow from TERI. TERI is the Energy and Resource Institute of India, and is also a member of the 4-Permit initiative. So, Mr., you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from TERI. TERI is around 50 years old organization in India, and it is working on energy and environment aspects, different aspects of energy and environment. We are having around 800 professionals working in the 7 different regions. So here I am mainly talking about something related to biochar, and we are using the pyrolysis technology to prepare the biochar. What Dr. Sai was trying to mention, that standardization of the biochar, we are trying to address some part of that one. Our biochar project has started from the aspects of air pollutions. Because when we are addressing the biochar, we are actually addressing the crop residue burning issues also. And while preparing the biochar, there is one oil that is being prepared. That is a byproduct that is called the pyrolytic oil. We are trying to address that particular oil also through our technology. Next slide, please. So the next slide, it is showing that we are having this is our technology that what we are implementing to prepare the biochar from the crop residues. Our main target product is not the biochar, it is the pyrolytic oil, because this pyrolytic oil is having lots of values. So when you are preparing the biochar in the normal methods, you are generating lots of VOCs. That VOCs is again a air pollutant, and it is quite harmful to the air. So we are capturing that VOCs. So when our biochar is produced, you have just no emissions at all. So you are having little bit of carbon monoxide emissions. That is a very small amount, because most of the things are captured into the pyrolytic oil that we are capturing through this technology. We had started working on this technology from 2012 onwards, and we have got patent for this technology in 2017. So for this technology, now we are facing a challenge, that availability of the crop residues. Because now when the government of India has taken different policies to manage the crop residues, most of the crop residues are going to the power plants, because there are 20% feeding is required for the power plant with the coal. The biomass has to be 20%. So the main challenge for this biochar production is now the availability of the crop residues. So we are going to use the crop residues and the some of the products that is coming out from different kinds of organic industries. There's industries that is using some of the organic materials. Next slide, please. So some of the biomass that is still available and a little bit useful for the biochar preparation also. That is, I'm giving some of the name here. That is the one is the mustard husk biomass. This is a mustard crop. This is a very strong biomass. Then one is the mustard stalk biomass. That is the stalk part of the mustard. The GNS is the groundnut cells. That is very much quantity. It is available, and it is not being used for any other purposes. And the last one is the bamboo biomass. It is available mainly from the paper mills. Paper mills use lots of bamboos, but some part of the bamboos they cannot use. So this is a waste from the paper mills. So we have used that one, and you can see here the with the biochar, that is a black portion, there is a production of enormous amount of pyrolytic oil. And this pyrolytic oil is having a great value for the, it can be used as a crude oil in the refineries also. So these are the different temperature that we are preparing the biochar. One is at the lower temperature, there is a 425 degrees Celsius and the 550 degrees Celsius, and we can increase the temperature of the pyrolysis unit at different scale. One scale we are using it at 10 degrees Celsius per minute increment, and another one we are going at 50 degrees Celsius per minute increment. And the quality of biochar is different at the two temperatures, and the pyrolytic oil and the biochar quantity is also different. Next, please. So this is the quality of the biochar. This is the different products that we are getting incorporated inside the biochar when we are getting out the biochar from our pyrolysis unit. So you can see here that biochar is enriched, of course, with carbon, but we are having some amounts of nitrogen that is also available in the biochar. Next, please. We have estimated the calorific value of the biochar, because this biochar can also be used in the industries. That, as I told already that the policymakers has already made it that some of the industries need to use this biomass based material. So if they are using the raw biomass, they are not getting that much calorie. If they can convert it to the biochar, the calorific value of that product also increased. Additionally, we are getting the pyrolytic oil. And here I just want to mention that our pyrolytic unit is being run with the solar power. So first, while initiating the charging, we are using the electricity, but after that it is running with the solar power and the non-condensable gas that we are circulating to the pyrolytic unit. So this is a completely net zero scenario again. Next, please. So we have taken one of the spent biomass product from one of the industry that is using the organic products. So for that spent biomass, we have taken, that is a spent biomass called Gotu Cola. This is a common name in India. That is called Centella asiatica. That is the scientific name of the crop. So that crop biomass we have taken from that industry. And after that, we have pyrolyzed it at 2 temperatures. We have go through 300 degrees Celsius to 600 degrees Celsius, and we find out that how much quantity of biochar and how much quantity of pyrolytic oil we are getting. And after that, we are finalized again 425 and the 550. These are the 2 temperatures that we have settled. And we have produced the biochar from the spent biomass of the industries. And after that, we are having, this is the spent biomass characterization that we have got. And the pyrolytic liquid that we are getting, that pyrolytic liquid is having high value of products like acetic acid, phenol, and pyridinol. Next, please. And after getting the biochar, we had applied it to the Centella asiatica production also. And we have got a higher production with the biochar application again. So if we are applying the biochar at 550 degrees Celsius, that is being produced, that biochar is giving us a better quality of Centella asiatica production than the other things. Next, please. And this is the soil parameters with the applications of biochar. Next, please. This is the greenhouse gas emission potential of the soil after the application of biochar. When we are applying the biochar at 550 degrees Celsius, we are getting a completely sequestration of the greenhouse gases, because we are having a negative sequestration of carbon, methane and the nitrous oxide here. So we are getting a complete negative sequestration of CO2 when we are applying 550 degrees Celsius biochar. Next, please. And this is the production of the stolon. This mainly Centella asiatica is produced through the stolon. So stolon production is also increased with 550 degrees Celsius biochar. Next. And we have done a net CO2 analysis of the biochar production. And we found that biochar application is having a complete net negative scenario, but biochar production is having a little bit of positive carbon dioxide emission, because we are using the electricity just to charge the biochar. So that is having a positive carbon dioxide emission. But overall, the system from biochar production to biochar application, it is having a net negative emission. Next, please. So this is the complete analysis, the LC analysis we did with the biochar. So this is the complete results of the LC analysis. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, these are the different activities that Terry is doing. That we are in the land restoration with the mycorrhiza. We are in the land restoration with the oil zapper. Oil zapper is mainly used to the land restoration with the oil fields that oil generally spilled over in the lands. Those oil lands can be restored. And recently, our nano urea products has been approved by ICAR, and we are going to implement the nano urea in the field in New Delhi. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those examples. It's so clearly, I mean, it's obvious to me now that biochar is really one of the things that we need to go for. There are many scientists all around the world that said, oh, maybe we don't know enough about biochar, we should investigate more. So as I said, well, we need to go forward. There is no harm in that. So the charcoal or the biochar will not harm the soil anyway, and we can provide a good things if we activate the biochar. It was proposed by several speakers to be able to develop more and more crops, more and more yield, and also increase the carbon sequestration in soil, because biochar will stay there for centuries. And at least it's not really what I call organic matter. Of course, it's inorganic, but anyway, it can last long in the soil, and it's a good thing. But we don't have also to saturate the soil with biochar, because we don't know if it could not be harmful at the end. Most probably not, but you never know. So now we are trying to make a connection with France, with the Biosphere, which is one of our sponsors also for this meeting. We're supposed to be online with Sébastien Romegus. Sébastien, you can hear me?
Hello, everyone. I hope you're going well and you enjoy the event. So I'm pleased to be with you. So it's not physically, but I think you are all in a kind of journey with regenerative agriculture and soil fertility, which is the same as us. I think it's a common topic throughout the world: how to mitigate climate change through agriculture and how to improve our soil fertility for our food security. So today I'm pleased to open this session for the role of businesses to change as a change maker, to improve and accelerate the transition towards a kind of agriculture that can play a role in climate change. So next slide, please. What we do at Biosphere is really to shift from conventional agriculture to regenerative agriculture. And just to introduce myself, I'm Sébastien Omego, so the owner of Biosphere. And what we work for, like major companies, mainly European today, but we are expanding in other continents. And today we have something like 100,000 hectares under regenerative projects in about 20 countries. So I did that. I started 10 years ago, and I will try to provide today what I think important throughout this experience. You can change. So as you know, we have different kinds, always interesting, but we don't need to be like in prison with different terms. Today, regenerative agriculture, agroecology are pretty much the same. What we try to do in the shifts is to align farming systems with ecological functions, with ecosystems functioning. And regenerative agriculture is interesting because in the wording we have regenerative. So that means we try to really connect agriculture on ecosystem functioning and then to not stop or make problems in some cycles, especially the carbon cycles, but also the water cycles. We will talk about that. So that's very interesting that in this move, we can use agriculture, which is on 50% of terrestrial ecosystems. We can use agriculture as a regenerative tool to regenerate our ecosystems and really to accept that some practices break some cycle in the field and at the landscape level, and some practices are regenerative. It can be aligned and in synergy with ecological cycles. And that's what we must do with agriculture if we wanted to solve part of the carbon cycle problems we have today. Next slide, please. So as you can see, more and more companies are going in this kind of agriculture, and those businesses want something specific. Those big businesses want that the ecological footprint of their product improves. And to do that, they had to see where the ecological impact was the most important. And those groups, of course, are sourcing a lot of agricultural raw materials. And most of the time, the ecological impact comes from agriculture. And this impact accounts for 50, 60, 70, and sometimes 90% of the overall ecological impact of their product. So that means they will have the will to more and more enlarge their project to change the farming practices in such a way that they can change the ecological impact of their product. Next slide, please. So in a supply chain, you have like food companies and distributors that are most of the time buying the raw materials from wholesaler and farmers. Next slide, please. And what they want to measure as ecological impact is something quite simple. So of course you have the climate, and it's all about the conferences here linked to the soil fertility. The carbon footprint actually is completely connected to what we call today co-benefits, but in the next future that will be like impact areas, and they will be at the same levels than carbon and than this scope 3, what they call the scope 3. So that means all the different carbon emissions they have from the field to the power plant. The transformation plant. So actually, those co-benefits are biodiversity, water, soil, livelihood, and actually, when we talk about carbon, it's completely connected, this carbon cycle, to water cycle, for instance, because if you have trees and if you have plants in an ecosystems, they evaporate some water and they contribute to 30 or 40% to the making of clouds, and then the clouds make the rain, and so on and so forth. So it's like this carbon cycle through plants and photosynthesis mainly, or through some fuel that we can use, of course, but it's also plant at the end, is connected to the water cycle. And the biodiversity is eating on those plants. So that means the biodiversity eats on water and carbon, and the soil is important. It feeds on carbon as well. So it's like, you know, everything is intermingled. And if you have an healthy soil, usually the farmer are happy, and then the livelihood increase in terms of quality as well. So it's like those co-benefits, what they call co-benefits, will be impact areas. And that's important to qualify the farming systems throughout those impact areas. The climate, of course, but also the water, the soil, the biodiversity, and the livelihood. And it starts from the soil. Next slide, please. So here you can see an example in a project in Spain. You have farming practices on the left and on the right. On the right, you have a nice soil cover. And on the left, you have a farmer which is quite traditional, is tilling the soil. And as you can see, you have this soil erosion that happens. You have many cracks in the field. The soil is, you have a net loss of soil. And actually, you have a problem here because you are just pumping up your organic matter in these systems, and you are producing a net production of CO2 in your field, which is not the purpose. And at the end, you have also another problem, is that if you have too much soil tillage, you disturb too much your environment, you disturb the ecological niches, so you have less biodiversity, you have erosion, so that means the soil water holding capacity, but the soil infiltration is low. So that means you have destroyed actually all the different aspects that you should measure to improve the ecological quality of your field. And that's interesting to see that usually for a farmer, it seems to be change his practices in such a way that he's going towards the practices of the neighbor, which is holding the soil on the plot. And that's the transition we do on the field. And I think any good project must do at large scale. Next slide, please. So on the next slide, you have another example, also from Spain, which is quite interesting because we are working in 20 countries, but the semi-arid or arid area within a country or in a country are the most generate. Because you have water, you can grow. Here in Spain, you have seen that on the last slide, but the conventional agricultural systems is most of the time bare soil. And during the summer, you have plenty of perennial weeds that are coming up. They are very hard to manage. That's a problem for the farmers. They're using herbicides and so on, but it's like how to improve impacting the economy of the farm and even making it better, but also how to connect with like using the water which is coming from the rain, even if it's less than 200 millimeters, because we don't want to irrigate to regenerate, because that means we are using resources which is not sometimes renewable, and in this area it's not renewable at all. So that means here we have planted a nice cover crop in between the trees. And as you can see in February, it's nice. And then in August, soil. And what is very interesting is that you don't have any herbicides or mechanical weeding that has been done. So that means we are planting a cover crop. we are using this cover crop to cover and protect the soil, but also it's a way to mitigate weeds. And that works pretty well. So that means we have saved an herbicides, we have saved some costs for the farmer. It compensates the cost of the cover crops. And at the end is starting a good journey, because in the plot where you're planting cover crops, you have 80% more infiltration rate of the water. So that means the water which is coming on the field is staying on the field, which is very important to replenish the watershed, but also to get the water in the field. And in this system, you have a kind of good cycle which is starting. And I think it's all about what happens when you are going into regeneration in the right way. It's good for the farmer because you can save some money. You can take this money you save to put the cover crop, then it's like no cost. The carbon content of your soil starting from cover crop, which is the best way to increase carbon cycle. Of course, so you can have like biochar, organic fertilizers, but a simple seed that is growing in your field and then you can crush it is one of the best way. That's the way nature is working for many, many years. And then you have the water cycle, which is improving. You have the biodiversity because the ecological niches with the cover crop as much more functional than in the standard and conventional way of farming. So that's interesting to see that with simple means, you can impact the different impact areas, water, biodiversity, carbon as well, which is important, and livelihood, and the soil fertility. So that's the option I prefer when I go in the field. It's simple, it's efficient, and you can impact different aspect of the ecological functioning of your plot. But if you do that at large scale, you can regenerate an ecosystem. And so that's why businesses that are going in this direction, I think they are going in the right direction. And it will improve. For instance, we are working for Pernod Ricard, or we are working for other companies that are working in India, in Asia, and they want to develop these kind of practices with local stakeholders. Sometimes with us, and we are working with local stakeholders as well. And that's important to develop such kind of practices. So you can go next slide. Yeah. So actually, what is important, and I think you will have a good discussion with panelists, it's very important to measure the impact. It's very important to use regenerative practices that can impact different areas, not only carbon, but also the rest. And to develop that at large scale in a consistent way, and especially at the landscape level to affect even the microclimate. We can see that in some projects when you have thousands of hectares that are regenerative. So that's a good thing for our future. And that's also a good thing for businesses as well, because if you can measure, you can prove. And if you can prove, you can valorize what you are doing on the field. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sébastien. And thank you for having accepted to have this very difficult condition, but finally it works not too badly. And we can even see you now. Thank you very much for your message, and thank you very much for your support to this conference. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
So all the messages are going the same way. I mean, this is very interesting because most of the people from business consider that regenerative agriculture or producing the other way is not possible and it's not rentable. But it is. It is viable and you can make money out of it. So what are we waiting for? Just a question, stupid question. Well, the thing is that it was already well said in a lot of presentation this morning. We need to change the mindset. This is the most difficult things for the people. It's so easy to do everything every day, the same thing. And you look at the farmers, we experience that in France, but everywhere in the world. In France, a lot of farmers are killing themselves every day because they cannot support the system. But they continue to do the same thing every day. So we need to help them to change the way they are producing, to find a better harmony between them, nature, society, and the rest of the world. Okay, now it's time for the third time of this last part of this morning. This is the last round. We just have to be a little bit more patient. It would be on business commitment and hands-on action. So I would like to call for the keynote speech Mr. Anirudh Kenny, Director of Business Development and Partnership, APAC and Africa, or Boom Mitra. So he will make a presentation on digitalizing carbon farming, empowering smallholder farmers through carbon market. Oh, what a challenge.
And I have my time as well, so I'll be on time.
Okay, but you will see me anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for this opportunity. I'm Anirudh, heading up business development partnerships for Bhumitra. Before we start, I would also like to mention that just yesterday, and this is a big thing for all of us, yesterday, Prince William is actually selected as one of the finalists for the Earthshot Prize. So we're one among 1,300 nominations which were there. So the idea of carbon farming and carbon finance, for that to become real, it's not just this room, but everybody else across the world which needs to come together. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think we can go to the next one. Yeah. So we are an international carbon marketplace. We are vertically integrated. The one before that, please. Yes, thank you. And yeah, this is the problem we face in the global south, whether it's in India or Kenya or various other parts of the world. The basic problem is that farm sizes are small, right? Transparency in the carbon markets has never been the strong suit, unfortunately, and that's because of the lack of MRV. Right. And of course, if we go towards the other side, whether it's, let's say, spectroscopy or soil sampling, it becomes very expensive, and it's not, and it's practically not possible. I mean, you've heard BIF and others talk about this. It's technically not possible to do it on each and every farm, right? So we need to have future-facing, efficient, robust technologies and methodologies come up, in which there is inclusivity, right? We don't have to just work with the 100,000 hectare farmer in Brazil. Of course, we have to work with them, but we also have to work with the half-acre farmer in Jharkhand or in the Makueni County in Kenya. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is how we do it. There are two key levers to what we do at Bhumitra: technology and partners. And this comes together to make our business model, right? So let's consider, let's say, one of the partners we work with who is helping our farmers. We talked about crop residue management a lot, and I see TNC is also in the room doing a lot of work in that space. So let's say one of our partners helps the farmer go to adoption of crop residue management, whether it's mulching or composting or various other avenues that are there. So this is going to lead to an increase or an improvement in soil carbon. Right? What we do is leveraging our proprietary technology using completely remote sensing. We're able to measure those changes, before and after. We're able to measure those changes leveraging remote sensing in the first 30 centimeters of the soil. So of course, we're measuring it. With the help of our partners, we are monitoring it. And then, of course, with the help of a third-party standard, whether it's the voluntary carbon market now, whether it's a compliance market tomorrow, the auditors which are there, they will remain the same. These are essentially UNFCCC certified carbon auditors, right? So we verify all of this quote-unquote carbon removal through a third-party auditor. And then, of course, now we have a commodity in place. Now, this is, I think, a much more important topic is the commodification of carbon, right? We have to believe in the commodification of carbon if we want to achieve, I know we say 1.5, but let's say a 2-degree rise over the next couple of years. Right? So, but now we have this commodity, and this rice and wheat farmer, this maize farmer is now also becoming a carbon farmer. And then we have a host of our clients currently based out of North America or Europe, sometimes Australia, who are looking to buy these carbon removal credits from us, right? Something which is very important is that once, of course, every credit is monetized or materialized, majority of the revenue always goes back to the farmers. That's very, very key. Majority must always go back, right? But also, of course, the partners who are working on the ground, who are doing so much hard work, we also provide them with a healthy percentage because they need to expand their project, right? The initial pilot, I would say, should act as a nucleus. They need to expand their project. Next slide, please. Yes, I did mention about the technology. We use various satellites across the electromagnetic spectrum to build very, very localized AI models. Next slide, please. And leveraging our technology, we are not just wanting to give the farmer that here's $10, $20, $50. We want to build an ecosystem for the farmer, right? So as of today, all our farmers in India, they're getting the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, soil moisture, various other features being integrated over the next couple of weeks as well. And all of these are funded by the carbon finance which is generated. So I think this is a more powerful idea than saying that, hey, here's $20 or $50, whatever it is, because now the farmer is getting access to capacity building support, which is extremely important in the smallholder context. They're getting access to all of these data points, which are converted to actionable data by our partners. And then I think thirdly, they're getting access to carbon finance. Next slide, please. Yes, so we have more than 100 partners. Unfortunately, I cannot put all of them up, but we work across the non-profit, for-profit, agribusinesses, UN agencies, World Economic Forum. So anybody who can bring a farmer into the ecosystem, as I said, inclusivity is key for us. Anybody who can help the farmer transition to the next set of practices, anybody who can help the farmer become a better version of themselves, please, we want to partner with you. We want to work with you. Next slide, please. Yeah, so over the past 2.5 years, we've built a global supply network. Once again, I would want to focus on the inclusivity. You can look at the fact that we're working with the ejidos in Mexico, which are the community lands, very degraded pastures in the Chihuahua and the Sonoran Desert. We're working with the large ranchers in the Pampas, with the World Food Program, with the smallholder farmers in East Africa, in the Masai Mara, very beautiful landscape, very interesting project to help the nomadic pastoralists there. And if you can, if you can go to the next slide, please. And finally, about India. India is a very, very unique ecosystem. We work with the half-acre farmer here. We work with the farmers, the large farmers in India, like 5 or 6 acres of land. So you can see we're covering the length and all. If you discount the Northeast for now, because that's a separate project, we're covering the length and the breadth of the country. Once again, inclusivity and transparency being key for this. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I think this is where I'd want to focus just a little bit on. Talked a lot about MRV, right? I do want to focus on. So this is a random farmer. This is not a farmer who works with us, but I just found this farmer last year with one of our customers, actually. And I just took their sort of field boundaries. And then what we asked our team to do is we asked our team to look at the soil carbon stocks over the past couple of years for this farmer, because I don't know this farmer, right? So next slide, please. So one before that, yeah. So you can see that we're tracking the soil carbon stocks over space and time, but people who are familiar with the crop residue burning, they know that, in the November and October, November, December, that's the time when burning will be rampant. You're seeing a big drop. And of course, the yields, the harvest has been taken, but you're seeing a big drop at the far end of 2022, at the end of 2022. This is caused by the burning of that crop residue, right? And yeah, next slide, please. And yes, this is one of our project farmers who is using mechanization to plow this back and, putting the wheat at the same time, reducing some amount of tillage as well. And yeah, over here you can see, of course, because again of the harvest, you are going to see a drop in soil carbon, but you can look at the quantum, just look at the slope of that line or that graph, right? There's the soil organic carbon percent. It's a percentage. It's a percentage of soil carbon. Yeah. So that we, as I said, we do work with the third-party standard, and this is the requirement that they adhere to. Maybe next slide, please. Yeah, and again, this is the smallholder context. Secondly, I mean, this is the Chihuahua and the Sonoran deserts, very large ejidos we work with. This is just 2 years' time. So if we like help, you know, if we allow nature to restore itself within a small amount of time, it doesn't need extensive effort from our end. Nature can restore itself. You can see that this is the same time that immense changes have taken place. And yes, with 5 more seconds, I'll stop here. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You were following the time like me. You still have time. I mean, it was not completely exhausted. Thank you very much. Interesting in intervention from the scientists. What is the unit of of your drawing? It's important. Yes. When you make a sketch, don't forget to put the unit you are using, because you will be looked closely by scientists and they want all explanation. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll have, if I'm not wrong, 3 interventions. We'll have one from Mrs. Sianyanya Rokovukako, the CEO of FRIEND, which is a foundation for rural integrated enterprise and development in Fiji. And we are glad you are here to share your knowledge with us. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Bulavinaka, and thank you, Paul. Just sitting through this conference, you know, you're hearing all the scientists, you're hearing business models, you're hearing researchers, but I represent a local-based NGO, which is based in Fiji. And just on August the 22nd of this year, we celebrated 21 years of our establishment. It was founded by a lady. Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep talking. So it was founded by a lady who has now gone into politics, and I have the honor of taking over the organization. Now, considering that things are global, they're regional, we've actually drawn from the local context. We're community-based, not just with farmers, but with women, with young people, and people with disability who we support with our program. And also, we realized that as a community, they had dreams. And as an organization, we have our dreams to meet global commitments. So that's where we meet halfway. We're aware of what's happening globally. Our community is aware of what's happening locally, and that's where we come in. But the organization was founded as a means of meeting the people, the vulnerable, to alleviate poverty. And since its establishment, our work has mainly been around the social, economic, and livelihood programs. And that's where we saw that in the livelihood programs, we were going in the direction of fertilizer. So we actually work with government, we work with a university in just promoting organic farmer. Apparently, we're the chair for the organic organization in Fiji, and we work with a regional organization, which is the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, and just the work in promoting health. And when we go to the communities, you know, we tell them this is what our grandfathers taught us, and then we're trying to. And I'm hearing all this behavior change, a change of mentality. That's exactly the work that we're doing in Fiji, in promoting that with our farmers, with our communities, in just saying, go back into organic. Use manure, refuse that's from your kitchen, you can use it. Very small scale, but we know, as I heard yesterday, it's that little drop of rain, it's that little grain in the sand that one day will make an impact, and we believe in that, and that's why we're continuing the work that we're doing. Yeah, I think a few keep going. Yes, so that's the work that we're doing, just in promoting no fertilizer. We're part of the, we conduct our organic certification as part of the Pacific Organic and Ethical Trade Community. Next. We also, we say we pioneer capacity training in organic and security and sustainable livelihoods. And you see it's just with the young people. And we also do, before they go into organic farming, we facilitate the testing of their soil as part of their nutrient management. And also recently, we've just established work with a group of hotels, the Marriott, in actually, we're calling that concept the indigenous learning concept, where we work with them in helping them establish the organic farms and having a story when the tourists do come in to say that there's a link with what is grown in the farm to what is served on the table. And also we're doing children's parks and all, it's around marine conservation, just so that it's the whole story is actually told in the hotel. So, and with the communities that are interior, we're actually promoting the kitchen scraps, the waste that is used, and the ones that are along the coast. We're promoting the use of seaweed with our communities. So, ladies and gentlemen, and participants from Fiji, we just wanted to share our journey. 20 years down the line, and one day we believe that we'll be speaking in larger forums. We would have expanded to from where we were in just being locally based. And we believe that there's been an interest from the region. We have a few South Pacific islands that have been interested, and rather than just expanding the reach and not being based, we're also considering that we need to build, because currently we're in the Western Division of Fiji. We've just moved into the Central Division and in the Northern, and hopefully we will go in the region and have a name there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. Sometimes we need very small action to make the things moving at a large scale level. So it's important to have people like you and your organization that make the things moving in the right direction. Thank you. So now, that was the part, hands-on action. That was exactly the part of the subject of this session. So you were right in the right session. So it's my pleasure now to call for Sam Yamdagni, if I'm right, from, it's a managing director of APAC, Amarenco Group in Thailand. We will talk on regenerative farm project in Thailand.
Hi, everybody. Just want to do a quick introduction. So with Amarenco, actually, our company is a shareholder with them for the Asia Pacific region. Amarenco is a solar IPP that is leading in the agri-PV. We share the agri-PV workspace in Europe. We'll see a couple of more things there. So on the private side, actually, we on our side, we started a farm, way back in 22. It was started off actually when we looked at Chef's Table. When we looked at Chef's Table, we looked at the fact that, you should have a farmer's mentality to be able to do and make and cook food. So that was the inspiration to actually start a farm. So going to the next slide, we basically felt that this was really important because we actually have many restaurants, many people who are trying to be able to get the right kind of vegetables, knowing where it is made, how it is made, and making sure that you can really complement with continuity the kind of food that you would want to have, right? So going to the next slide, we also find it very difficult for people to do that. So within our family businesses, we also have two other businesses known as Pizza Mania, and of course that does pizza, and La Lapin, which is doing sandwiches. So our problem, how the whole thing started, was to figure out what do we do, and where do we get these vegetables from? And again, that Netflix was inspiration, and that's how we started the whole thing out. Now I'll accelerate from here on. what happened, and it's very similar to what we just discussed the previous round, where a small idea started and it actually has scaled up to be something significant. So just about that time we started, this is the time we did the joint venture with Amarenco. And Amarenco, like we said, has got all these greenhouse expertise and things like that. Going on to the next slide. Yeah, so we basically decided to have this farm located right between the mountain range between Myanmar and Thailand. And so we really do get very, very good water coming in there. And that's why we have set up this organic farm that we're doing. Next slide, please. And what we did was we basically partnered with a farmer from France, Benoit. Benoit essentially supplies his vegetables only to Michelin 3-star restaurants in France. So he and his wife, they come regularly to our farm to be able to extend these practices to us. And what we're doing, we partner with the seed companies. We're looking with Amarenco to get what we can get in terms of the greenhouse farming, use the solar to make it regenerative. And that's the path under which we continue to go on. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so of course we have a separate nursery and things like that, but we're developing. I'd like to show the picture of the produce. Next slide, please. Yep. So we are really, if you look at the taste of the vegetables and the tomatoes, it's very, very different. It's pretty much similar to what you would actually get in Europe. Okay. Have we got the consistency right? Not yet, but we're on the process of doing the right kind of environmental control and things like that to be able to achieve that. Next slide, please. So this is the typical kind of produce that we are able to make from these farms. And currently we are going to, so, those are all the different types of tomatoes you'll see. So we've tried a whole lot of variety of different types of vegetables before we came into, we started with, I think, 360 different seeds before we came down to stuff that we think works in the current environment. Next slide, please. So currently, actually, we're supplying to many of these Michelin star restaurants in Thailand. So most of these chefs are extremely passionate and they would like to move forward with it. So with that, we had to do a whole lot of work in terms of how to manage soil, right? And many of the things have been discussed here. We see that there's a lot we can learn from everybody here. But now with that, let me explain to you what has happened with this project next after this. Next slide, please. So what has happened is we have actually come up with a seed project where we're getting the French government to sponsor FASEP. FASEP is going to look into being able to provide a lot of this. Amarenco is a partner, Ministry of Agriculture is a partner, Naresuan University and an expert. So having done the base work, we're now actually having a seed project where in this seed project, the technology transfer will be done to be able to take the learnings that we have, get more learnings from the French to be establishing a sort of a template. So as we have discussed this with the government, moving on to the next slide, we have had a discussion. You'll see Eva there. Eva is there in the meeting a couple of times. She's also from Amarenco. So we worked with the Ministry of Interior in their concept of sufficiency economic zones. And in that sufficiency economic zone, they've actually come up with a program that they would like to implement for the whole of Thailand. Okay, next slide, please. So the FASEP is the current phase where we are in, which is where we are working on. Then there's a POC project, which has already been defined. I'll show you the pictures of that. Then they've identified a lot of projects that can be done in terms of pilot, 7 different sites. And they'll be implementing this throughout Thailand, right? So going to the next slide, please. So basically, the government will invest partially. So you'll see the government sector helping in terms of academy infrastructure and basically buying power. And you'll have private sector that will be giving a lot of input into these farms and providing these farmers the knowledge to be able to execute this. So this is what will be done in the POC project, the POC project. Next slide. This is what the POC project looks like. The government is going to be spending a lot on the infra, but then the private companies will come in to support these farmers, right? We can discuss much more in details whenever we have some time. But this is a project that is going to be executed shortly as a proof of concept or the POC project. Immediately after that, so these are the different people who will be coming in as private sector coming in to support this. Next slide, please. So this is the POC project. So over here, the Central Group, for example, which is the biggest department store, Dusitani Hotels, the biggest hotel company, they have basically guaranteed to buy the produce from everything that is produced by these kind of projects. Next slide, please. So on the pilot phase, they're going to be going with these 5 different projects. After the POC concept is done, they'll be going to doing these projects with these kind of acreages, which is quite large. And having done that, they'll be doing 1,000 of these throughout Thailand, right? So just wanted to highlight what's going on over there in terms of a very seed project that has started up and to where it has been able to come now. With this, to all the community at 4P1000, we're definitely looking for people who can come help. We'd like to be able to make sure we can make this into a robust template, which could be used anywhere. So please feel free to contact if you can contribute anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. And it's good to see that we can have a productive, I would say, sustainable agriculture and also some energy production, which is important for life. Right. So we now can give the floor to Mr. Kamlesh Kumar, Chairman of Managing Director of Hindustan Salt Limited India. He would like to say a few words without any presentation, but you have the floor for a few minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm sure you must be hungry. It's lunchtime. But I'll give you a different perspective to the entire thing. Whatever we have heard till now, my perspective would be slightly different. And I start from where Daji left in the beginning. It is simple that on the earth, nothing has changed. No water has escaped out of earth. No NPK has run away from earth. Everything is on earth only. What have we done? That on earth, wherever these things were, we didn't care for them. We misutilized them and they went away. I'll talk about water. There is no water scarcity. All that has happened, waters have been drained out and put into sea because we didn't hold them. What has happened, NPK or carbon or iodine has gone away from our layers and gone to sea. What are we doing now? What are we left over? We are trying to again transform them and make best of it. Why am I here? The reason I'm here is that there's a method nature has given us that we can bring back the things we have sent to ocean through a natural way. And we can get them back where they belong. So how do we do that? The reason I'm here is we have started something called seaweed farming and algae farming. When you look at seaweeds and algae, the photosynthesis that takes place in seaweed and algae is 40 to 400 times more than what a plant does. That amount of carbon sequestration takes place whenever algae growth or the photosynthesis that happens in the seaweeds. Also, the complete thing which has been lost from the main earth is nowhere. It's floating on the coastal areas. It's in the top layers of 10 meters of sea. When you do a seaweed farming, the complete thing is absorbed and brought back to you through nature. You don't have to do any part. And seaweeds, when you put them in sea, their growth is 5 times in a month. You put 1 kg of seaweed And in 1 month, it becomes 5 kg. In a year, it becomes 12 times. Every year, every month, it goes up by 5 times. So 12 into 5, 60 times it grows. So that kind of growth you have. And what comes in the seaweeds or in the algae is it is rich in nitrogen, it is rich in potassium, it is rich in iodine, it is rich with phosphate. There's a main ingredient of seaweeds. When you bring them back, it's for you to use them back into your farms as biofertilizers and get back the things which we have drained out through our humus, through our afforestation, and that's how it comes back. So my message is that the way to get the entire soil back is by a method, natural method of cultivation of seaweeds, and on mainland, cultivation of algae. Algae we have done research, we found that the urea or the NPK that we use, if you make a solution of 1/3 of urea and let it be treated through algae, it gives you a biofertilizer whose potency is 10 times better than urea. And there's no leaching, there's no escapes. It's a biofertilizer. It does no wrong to your complete fertilization. We have developed that. We would like to take it forward. So my request to one and all would be that wherever you are, do invest your time and space in cultivation of seaweeds, algae, and we'll be helping you in that. As of now, in one of the islands of Lakshadweep called Bitra, we've been given 45 square kilometers of area for farming of seaweeds. We have started this year. We are looking for partners. Complete Lakshadweep is available. Close to 2,000 square kilometers of area is available for seaweed farming. There are the lovely lagoons. One could go, we'll facilitate to you. You can come and do farming of seaweeds. Seaweeds, again, should not be misutilized for meeting the human greed. They should be used to be rebuilding our soil. They must be brought back to the soil so that the leftover portion of NPK can be enriched. And if seaweed growth is taken for another 5 to 10 years, I assure you that the entire earth would be enriched with NPK, and there can't be a better method than this. Yes, the other parts of using carbon, other parts of utilizing forestation for getting the water and all that has to continue. But a quick method which nature has given us is this, and this should be followed. Second part is the algae farming. Algae farming has got tremendous benefits. In future, we were looking at, the amount of land that we have and how much can it give us. The complete food chain can be managed through seaweeds and algae. And the amount of production that can happen is even 10 times the population of Earth increases. The seaweeds and algae is good enough to feed them. So my request would be that let's look that way, and it could create the whole thing in a very cyclic form, in a very organic way. One more part is that...
Can you conclude, sir? Because it's time.
Yes. We were talking about MRV. Basically, we want to check or monitor what is the status. One basic thing is if a human is healthy, the environment around would be healthy, the soil would be healthy, everything would be healthy around. It's not other way. You don't make the soil healthy, you don't make the environment healthy. Make yourself healthy, everything around you would be healthy. So walk backward, make your living minimalistic, make it organic. You'll find the surroundings around you becomes organic, it becomes healthy. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daji said yesterday that we have to look at the ocean and look at the algae. Algae used to be used for fertilizer for ages everywhere on Earth. So sometimes we seem to forget very simple things that we used to do before. Well, now I have a question tag because I have 2 more people on my list, but I'm not sure they are here. Okay, so one I can jump. The other one is, the name I have is KK. Is KK around here? He's here, okay. So this is Cool COVID. Okay, so I prefer that because I like the nickname, but when we are familiar, we are not yet familiar. So you are co-founder and CEO of Circonomy, a startup in Singapore that specializes in issuing carbon credit for low-tech biochar units. So The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
I hope I wish I could say good afternoon, but since I know it's already time for lunch, I'll take just 5 minutes. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it's like, thank you for having me here for, and it's like giving like this, you can say, stage to express what we are doing and everything. So I'll start with a bit of an introduction. So I'm Gulkavid Rora, co-founder of Circonomy. It's a Singapore-based startup, and what we are doing, we are trying to help people to scale biochar production and to claim carbon credits. And when I say scale, it's like biochar production, we really want to decentralize the whole process from a centralized scale to the individual farmer. And this is, you can say, in a way, it's like we're trying to have the individual farmers back on the ground, that it's like they can produce the carbon credits and they can have the benefits also. So in terms of, you can say this conference, or I should say, like the whole, it's like this 4 per 1,000 initiative is about saving the soil, and they are putting a lot of importance on, you can say, food security and climate change, right? So in terms of, you can say, in last few years, like everyone around, you can say government, organization, NGOs, everyone is putting a lot of emphasis on like soil health, like regenerative agriculture and everything. But the one thing which is missing from this link is the financial aspect of this. So like you can consider our startup as specifically providing this financial aspect to this whole model, right? It's like, can we have the first slide, please? So it's like, this is where you can say the Circonomy is based on the 3 founding, it's like pillar of this, it's like whole model. It's like one of them is food security. The second is it's like protection of the environment. And the third is this, like incentivizing this last, you can say, farmer to make his agriculture, everything more, it's like remunerative, right? So in terms of, can we, so yeah, it's like you can say the pillars of the Circonomies are more based on the problems of agriculture, which we right now facing. If I come to the, you can say, climate change and everything, so the net zero path, or you can say the net zero, the global greenhouse gas emission, it all goes through, it's like agriculture, because agriculture contributes around 18% of the total GHG. And even if you have, it's like by employing, you can say, regenerative agriculture and all these mechanisms, we can actually reduce this whole, you can say, carbon emission and like everything. Can we get to the next slide, please? So yeah, so I guess we all know what biochar is. We all know like what it does and what we do. I'll put a different perspective to it. So basically, there are 2 ways of producing biochar. One is low-tech biochar, which is artisanal biochar production, and the next one is the industrial pyrolysis. It's like biochar, which requires a huge capex, right? So in terms of industrial pyrolysis, I would say these methods are not very scalable because you need a lot of capex here, right? But the artisanal biochar production, which are also eligible to claim carbon credits in terms of CSI guidelines, or you can say it's like other guidelines like VERA, you can have the same amount of carbon credits, or you can say the same amount of carbon finance with the very low, you can say, capex. Right. So if you go to the next slide, it's just, I guess, the benefits of the biochar. I guess we know about that. We can skip that part. I want to tell you about carbon removal and carbon avoidance, but I guess we can still skip this part. So it's like I will, it's like just explain a bit of it. So in terms of, you can say, the carbon credits from the biochar, why they are priced higher than the carbon removal from the agroforestry and everything, right? So even if you have the carbon credits from the low-tech, it's like artisanal biochar, they are still priced at around $120 to $150. It's like rather than what you get from, it's like the other carbon removal, you can say, from agroforestry, or using, it's like what my friend from Bhumitra and other people were talking about here. You get a very low price from that. So basically with artisanal biochar production, what you can do is you can actually make this whole agriculture for people economically viable, right? Because if you get a $120 from, so it's like, my point is like, even if you do like regenerative agriculture or sustainable agriculture, the people are still going to, it's like, produce residues, right? So these residues have to be managed somewhere in terms of not, who can say allowing the farmers to open burn them, or you can say decomposition. So this is where this biochar comes, that each individual farmer should be able to produce biochar in their own field. And then it's like Circonomy will use its own, it's like a aggregation model to combine them in one project, and it's like report to the third-party verification so that they can claim the carbon credits, right? So this is where I guess a lot of people were also talking about MRV and everything. So Circonomy comes with their own digital MRV, which specifically, you can say, have expertise in the artisanal biochar production. I guess we can skip that part also. So yeah, in terms of technology, his presentation was more about artisanal biochar production, so I have not included the industrial pyrolysis equipment, but I'll again want to make a point here. In terms of industrial pyrolysis equipment, I guess someone was here from TERI. So Circonomy have the equipments which are CHP, combined heat and power, which are self-sustainable, which do not require any, you can say, input from outside. So in terms of industrial pyrolysis unit, we have that. And in terms of the artisanal biochar like production, we have the design from the ICAR Institute, and we are already rolling that out in India and producing carbon, carbon credit. And in terms of, I guess, it's like technology, we have one-stop solution. Can we have the next slide, please? So we have the MRV, we have the, it's like you can say one-stop solution. Why I say? Because it's like if a farmer wants to claim carbon credits, so they can just contact us. We'll train them, right? Through our, it's like we have personal training also. We have, you can say, videos also. So once we certify that the farmer is trained enough, he can start producing their own biochar. After the production of the biochar, he can actually, it's like after using our digital MRV and everything, we help them to claim carbon credits, and the money flows back to the farmer, right? So yeah, so it's like in terms of, yeah, we can skip the slides. So yeah, the farmer have just to contact us. We'll help them to produce biochar. Once the biochar is produced, we'll help them to claim carbon credits. And in terms of these carbon credits, we help them to again sell these carbon credits to the corporates. So we are this one-stop solution from right from starting from the training of these farmers to the selling of these carbon credits to the corporates and giving these benefits back to the farmer. So yeah, this was all from my side. Thank you for bearing with me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.